Good afternoon and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriation is now called to order. Today is Monday, June 17. Time now is 2:00 p.m. I'd ask the folks on the panel to please just have a seat for now while I go over the administrative information. In compliance with the Open Government Law, the notice for this public hearing will post it on GovGuam Public Notice Portal, GTA Channel 21, Docomo Channel 117, and live stream on the Guam Legislature's YouTube, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, June 10th and the 13th. Today we'll be hearing Bill 236-37 COR Committee on Rules by request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the Guam Police Department. At this time, I'd ask the members of the Guam Police Department panel to rise and be placed under oath by the Sergeant Arm. And if there's anyone else that might speak, please just stand up and be sworn in so that if you're called to speak, you can speak. Nobody wants to? I don't blame you all. Anyway, go ahead, Sergeant Arms.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Arms. The rules for this budget hearing. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopy and distribution. I know you have some slides that are still inbound, right? Or are they here already? Are the slides here? Okay, no, do we have copies ready for distribution? If you don't, then it's not ready. Moving along. Yes, Chief.
Sir, our presentations for distribution is on this way.
Okay.
So it'll be here shortly. It'll be here shortly.
We'll just be moving along a little bit, then we'll pause for a few minutes and we'll see if it's here ready.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Okay, got it.
Panel members are asked to remain in the room for question or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. And I'd ask the members of the panel, if you feel that there's some personal inference being directed to you or stated by any of my colleagues, please identify it so that we can screen it, scrub it, and get rid of it. Okay? And if there's any violation of such, the general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd ask that on the panel members, when you first speak, identify who you are, you know, your rank, your position, and then that's only one thing. Then after that, it's up to my colleagues now to remember who you are. You don't have to keep repeating that, I'm Colonel Carbolito. No, I'm only one time Colonel Carbolito. Everybody should try to remember that. And with that, I'd like to thank my colleagues that have joined us this afternoon. I'll begin with the Oversight Chair, Senator Barnett, and Senator Fisher, and Senator Canata, Senator Blas, and Senator Brown. And with that, I'd ask the Chief to please present the budget. Do we have the slides already? Do we have the copy? Did it arrive? Okay, so we just get it. Is it getting printed? This is it? In a pinette put. You have all, you're going to go through all of this, Chief? Speed reading, I guess, I hope? Okay. Thank you. All right, Chief, go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator Joseph Agustin, Chair, members of the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication. Good afternoon, Senator Canata, Senator Blas, our Oversight Chair, Senator Barnett, Senator Tom Fisher, and Senator Joanne Brown. I am Stephen C. Ignacio, Chief of Police for the Guam Police Department, and I am here in my official capacity along with Colonel Carbolito and key members of the Guam Police Department to render testimony in the fiscal year 2025 Guam Police Department budget proposal I would like to start first off also with introducing my staff. To my far right, we have Captain Kim Santos, who's the Acting Bureau Chief for Investigations Bureau. Immediately next to her is Major Fred Charglaf, in charge of Services Bureau. Of course, Colonel Joseph Carbolito, the police commander. And to my immediate left is my Administrative Services Officer, Ms. Nelly Sonoma. And to her left is Major Manny Chong from Forensic Science Bureau. First, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Office of Finance and Budget Committee for your ongoing support. Our collaboration is essential for maintaining the level of police service our community expects and deserves, ensuring operational efficiency and fiscal accountability. My testimony today provides an initial assessment of the FY 2025 budget projections introduced by the Governor, Lourdes Leon Guåhan. GPD is requesting funding in the General Fund, Special Fund, and Federal Fund match categories to sustain police operations throughout the FY 2025. Our fiscal year 2025 budget request of $55,180,064 is crafted to ensure that our police officers, statisticians, criminalists, law enforcement dispatchers, mechanics, and administrative/logistical staff are effectively led, compensated, trained, and equipped. This proposal reflects a detailed collaboration between BBMR, DOA, aligning with the objectives of the current Budget Act and strategic departmental priorities. Next slide, please. The agenda for this presentation includes GPD's FY 2025 budget proposal, FY 2025 budget allocation, federal grants, and our FY 2025 strategic initiatives and data and statistics to support the initiatives. Next slide, please. The FY 2025 budget presentation will detail the distribution of $55,180,064 between the General Fund, Special Fund, which includes the Police Services Fund, Tourist Attraction Fund, and the Police Patrol and Equipment Fund, as well as Federal Fund match. The careful distribution of funds within various appropriation categories is essential for supporting the operational, investigative, forensic, administrative, and logistical services of the Guam Police Department. Next slide, please. Within the General Fund, $39,315,686 is allocated for personnel services. This funding also covers promotions for law enforcement officers and civilian staff, as well as the recruitment of 20 police officer trainees and civilian employees. The Special Fund allocation for FY 2025 totals $4,672,857, designated for personnel costs associated with Police Services Fund and the Tourist Attraction Fund. Combining both the general and special funds, the total personnel services request for FY 2025 amounts to $43,988,545. This funding is essential to sustain the current workforce and accommodate future growth, primarily among sworn officers. Under the General Fund, $39,315,688 is allocated for personnel services. This funding also covers promotions for law enforcement officers and civilian staff and the recruitment of police officer trainees and civilian employees. The Special Fund allocation for FY 2025 totals $4,672,857 designated for personnel costs associated with the Police Services Fund and the Tourist Attraction Fund. Combining general and special funds, the total personnel services request for FY 2025 amounts to $43,988,545. This funding is essential to sustain the current workforce and accommodate future growth, primarily among sworn officers. For operations, $55,180,064 is requested, $47,506,815 under the General Fund for Contractual Services, Office Lease, Supplies, Equipment, Workers' Compensation, Drug Testing, Miscellaneous Costs, Capital Outlay, and Utilities. For utilities, $593,000 $93 for power, $100,000 for water and sewer, and $340,000 for phone and internet services is projected, totaling $1,030,093 under the general fund. $371,282 is requested under special funds for contractual services and supplies. And $2,629,110 federal share, which we requested local match requirements of $979,930 for the cops hiring program and the recreational boating safety grant. Next slide, please. The Guam Police Department has aggressively pursued federal funding to supplement our local budget appropriations, significantly enhancing our operations and services. Since FY 2023, we have implemented a comprehensive grant strategy, forged strong partnership with local and federal agencies, and engaged in national law enforcement networks to identify and secure numerous federal grants. These efforts have led to a substantial increase in our federal grant capacity, rising from $12.1 million in FY 2023 to $13.5 million currently, reflecting an 11% increase. Key grants such as the Community-Oriented Policing Services Grant, Justice Assistance Grants, JAG, Department of Interior Technical Assistance, Stop Violence Against Women, Paul Coverdale, and Recreational Boating Safety Grants have enabled advanced training, equipment procurement, and expansion of community programs. In the past few months alone, a total of 14 competitive grants applications were submitted, totaling $12 million to support GPD's cops hiring, Neighborhood Patrol Division, Forensic Science Bureau, Planning and Research, Criminal Investigation, Special Ops. Of those, the Guam Police Department received new grant awards for 5 grant applications totaling $986,000, one of which was a recent award from the Department of Interior for a crime scene response van. The remaining grant proposals for additional patrol cars, a mobile command center, a tactical armored vehicle, the cops hiring program to hire 30 police officer trainees, the Defense Community Infrastructure Program for renovations of 4 police precincts, and the construction of a new police substation in Jigo, and another grant proposal aimed at school violence prevention are still under review. However, GPD remains hopeful that we will receive more federal funding to support these important initiatives in 2025. Lastly, in 2025, for the first time ever, Guam will be hosting the Western State Boating Administrators Association's 63rd conference, scheduled for next year. GPD will continue to seek additional funding initiatives to support our needs beyond local budget appropriations, focusing on community policing, technological enhancements, school violence prevention, police vehicles and maintenance, narcotics interdiction, and counterterrorism preparedness, to name a few. These grant initiatives are not currently included in our FY 2025 local budget appropriations. Next slide. Our FY 2025 strategic initiatives. First, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. We'll turn that over to Major Manny later when we come to the discussion. Safe Schools Initiative funding. Based on conversations and community concerns, the GPD requests $1.5 million overtime to sustain the island's Safe Schools Initiative. Safe Schools Initiative is another community service that the Guam Police Department provides, and in FY 2024, GPD increased manpower of the number of patrol officers by maximizing, via overtime, beat coverage to staff schools within each district during peak hours. Morning, lunch, and after school. This has greatly decreased the number of school-reported incidents due to police presence. GDOE has endorsed via letter to Chief of Police that the school initiative is working and asked the Chief of Police to continue with the program. The initial cost of the service to GPD is estimated at over $3 million. However, we are only requesting 50% coverage of that cost. If you cannot provide that supplemental funding, therefore, we request should be carved out from DOE's appropriation to offset that cost. We understand that we are asking a substantial amount to cover our pay, but the Guam Police has had to provide more services and manpower to the schools without a identified funding source. Uniform personnel pay adjustment. The Guam Police Department submitted a proposal titled the Guam Police Officer Differential Institutional Pay for review with the Department of Administration. In response, the Department of Administration Director, Mr. Ed Byrne, provided his findings to the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor, which in turn the Acting Governor signed on June 7, 2024. This pay adjustment and ensuring current benefits remain untouched preserves the overall attractiveness of the compensation package while addressing the need for a higher base salary, which in turn may improve the department's ability to retain and attract potential applicants in this competitive labor market by offering fair and attractive pay. Comparing this new pay adjustment, a police officer's trainee salary is more aligned with positions such as those who are in the GS5 or GS6 with the federal agencies. This allows for the Guam Police Department to be a more competitive employer in the long run. The primary effect of these findings is that the police officer's base salary is increased by 25.59% while maintaining benefits pay, special pay, and the 10 and 15% retention pay respectively. With the 25.59% pay adjustment for Guam police officers, this ensures that the compensation package is now competitive with its local and federal counterparts. Based on the pay adjustment memo, the Guam Police Department requests an increase of $9 million to sustain this base pay increase. Next slide. This slide illustrates GPD's 25.59% pay adjustment. The table represents a comparison of pay between Federal and GPD Police Officer 1 and Police Officer Trainee positions. The charts below the table reflects the current pay comparison, ranging from highest to lowest, and the impact that the pay adjustment will have on GPD's recruitment efforts. With the 25.59% pay adjustment, GPD will become more competitive compared to other law enforcement organizations and federal counterparts. We expect that this will increase recruitment and retention efforts. With this new pay adjustment, a police officer trainee salary is more aligned with positions such as those who are GS6 with federal agencies. Next slide. Over the past 3 years, GPD has received more than 30,000 calls per year. These can range from a reported down traffic light signal to a life-threatening incident. There are currently 281 uniformed officers with the 29 police officer trainees inclusive. There is an average of 128 patrol officers at the precinct levels that entertain reports and complaints. From 2021 to 2023, 98,310 calls required GPD response. The average call requiring GPD response each year for the 3 years is 32,770. The average call requiring GPD response for the 3 years is 256 calls per officer. From 2021 to 2023, there was a total of 34,028 number of crimes reported, written reports. The average call between the 3 years is 11,343 number of crimes reported per year. The average crime reported per officer is 89 crimes per officer. From 2021 to 2023, a total of 12,706 arrests were made. The average rate per year for the 3 years was 4,025 arrests per year, with an average arrest of 31 per officer. Some personnel statistics. Starting in 2019, the Guam Police Department initiated an aggressive recruitment campaign, resulting in 5 hiring cycles and the addition of 105 new officers to the force. Despite these best efforts, we continue to face challenges related to attrition. Many officers have retired or resigned, and the projections indicate a continued trend of personnel leaving due to retirement or resignation in the near future. As of June 2024, the Guam Police Department has 281 uniformed personnel, inclusive of the 29 police officer trainees. Regardless of the additional hiring of new officers, the Guam Police Department is still at a manpower loss. Over the past 5 years, we have experienced an average attrition rate of nearly 26 officers yearly. This manpower shortage significantly affects workforce stability and underscores the need for enhanced retention strategies to maintain a robust and effective police force. We also ask that if funds lapse at the end of the fiscal year, they may be retained, such as the $500,000 allocated to construct the police memorial, which should be reappropriated for the same purpose and any other construction work with the Department of Public Works. In conclusion, as we move forward into our FY 2025 budget submission, the Guam Police Department is requesting a total of $55,180,064 plus an additional $9 million to cover personnel costs, $2 million for the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning equipment at Forensic Science Bureau, and the $1.5 million for the Safe Schools Initiative. We are confident that this will sustain and enhance our current efforts to improve police services. Funding request covers the general fund, special fund, and federal fund match, and is critical for meeting true personnel costs, including overtime projections, and the recruitment of up to 24 police officer trainees. It also supports ongoing initiatives across all 4 bureaus within the department, provides for CVPR stipends, purchases parts and supplies, and funds contractual services. Looking ahead, it is my goal to further my vision for the Guam Police Department by expanding our workforce with both sworn and non-sworn personnel, enhancing our civilian volunteer police reserve program, increasing our vehicle fleet, boosting our fixed assets, and elevating the conditions and standards throughout the entire department, while adhering to the set expenditure limits of our budget proposal. The Guam Police Department is committed to fulfilling the Governor's Safe Streets initiatives, improving the efficient and prudent management of our funds, and collaborating with our community partners, federal counterparts, and municipal and island leaders. This includes pursuing opportunities for project adoption, sponsorship, and additional funding. We are also committed to working with this committee and the entire 37th Guam Legislature to help the Guam Police Department achieve its objectives for a safer community. Sizus Masi, thank you for the opportunity to present testimony in our budget proposal. At this point, I'm ready to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. I've got a few questions. See if anybody else showed up. Nope. The initial 55, I have no reservations on that. That was an easy one. The $9 million that you brought up and the additional the $2 million for HVAC, where's that for? Where's that?
That's a high-end estimate. So as you recall, about almost 10 years ago, the HVAC system at the Forensic Science Bureau, the crime lab building in Manila, became a subject of importance. The HVAC system broke. There was mold in the building. They couldn't function properly. They couldn't do tests.
We're talking about the crime lab, the GC compound, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So back in about 10 years ago, there was a serious problem. It was put out for bid and an award was given. It was given to I guess what you call their lowest responsible bidder. Unfortunately, that lowest responsible bidder was about $500,000. All the other estimates came in at over $1 million. Unfortunately, it looks like we got what we paid for because the system, although functioning, has not been functioning properly since then. We've had a complete and thorough assessment done by an engineer with the assistance of Mr. Sonny Perez from GURA. And the recommendation is we probably should have a serious conversation or consider replacing the whole HVAC system up there. A lot of the parts and equipment that they use up there, that building, is written in a language that nobody understands.
Okay, no, the reason why I wanted to know specifically, Chief, was that because, you know, when the officers give citations, right? The money doesn't come back to the police department, and that money goes to the court.
Right.
The court diverts some of that funds to build a crime lab. And if anybody, maybe we should ask the court to make sure that building is maintained, because that's where some of that that's where the money's going. If I'm correct, unless you have another reason not.
So-
I mean, why should you foot the bill? You're just using the building, and they're supposed to be funding that.
So I believe the law requires that they provide us money annually for maintenance. So,
Tell them like to fix it. That's
but
maintenance.
not to fix it, to maintain it. so
Yeah, but-
it's gonna cost a pretty penny to fix that new system, to replace the system up
The
there.
reason why I'm saying it, Chief, is that if it's not maintained, then it'll break down like it's doing now.
Yeah, so we're doing what we can with to maintain it up there. We actually have been we actually entered into an MOU several years ago with the judiciary. So they are right now responsible for our building maintenance up there. So it's actually worked to everybody's advantage because some of our problems, of course, lies with procurement. Procurement with the Guam Police Department takes some time to get things done, to purchase things, get contracts in place. By turning over the procurement to the judiciary, we know how much money we have, we know how much money is being spent, and we lay out the priorities for them on what needs to be maintained, what needs to be replaced. So we've actually gotten the building back to a better place than it was before. I mean, simple things like making sure the toilets are flushed properly, air cons, the air cons, if the main air con is not working, we have backup air conditioning with split units. Right. So we're in a better place now, I believe, with maintenance. Unfortunately, again, we've had assessment done with the HVAC system, and the HVAC system is important because it's not just split air conditioning. It's a very advanced kind of HVAC system because we do analysis in the different areas within the crime lab, and so it's not your typical run-of-the-mill air conditioning system that you and I would probably imagine. So getting a proper HVAC in place and making sure it's functioning is important because we also want to make sure that we maintain accreditation. Yes. So, as I reported a couple years ago, for the first time in its history, the Guam Police Department Crime Lab is accredited internationally. And so we want to maintain that accreditation and make sure that we do everything that we can to protect the accreditation as it is.
Okay, Chief. I understand where you come from asking money to do it, but I'll throw that question at the court. I'll have them identify how much money they get out of the citations that are issued by only the police department, how much money that generates, and where's that money going?
Yes, sir.
Because I'll be very concerned because that's how that building and the grants came through, So I'd rather, if we're going to give you $2 million, keep it for the department. Pay your officers, get your equipment, not to fix a building that they should fix themselves. That's my perception, okay? But we'll figure that out.
Yes, sir.
And then you got the 1.5 for the Safe School Acts. This is the governor's initiative, right?
No, sir. So, of course, as you know, there's been a lot of problems with school violence. And it goes all the way back to 2019, and then it resurfaced again last school year. If you look at some of the presentation we gave you, there's a letter that we received from one of the school administrators, Ms. Carla Masnayan from Simon Sanchez.
Simon Sanchez, yes.
And I think that letter is a testament to the positive presence of the Guam Police Department. And I was watching the presentation earlier by Dr. Swanson, and there was questions about the police officer's presence. And he had a lot of positive things to say about our presence here at the school. So I think as we move forward, if we get the funding for this, we can actually look at, instead of just a temporary presence, have a full-time presence. The officer will be there from the time the school opens to the time the school closes. But it costs money, especially when we're short, to have to bring in these officers to address the school violence. But I think, like you said, it's a proactive measure that actually prevents violence and having to be reactive to a violent situation.
Understood, Chief. I'm just looking at it as that the SRO program that was when it first started, right, with DOE, I've always brought up that GPD should have been in the forefront because why? That SRO program that came from the court, they couldn't do anything. If anything had to happen, they had to call the blue suiters. They had to call you guys. So why even be there? Why not you folks? And that whole program could have been funded through the federal grants. It should have been a GPD initiative to begin with. And as I listened to your testimony, you said I'm almost sure you mentioned the governor's Safe School Act, right? Safe Streets. Isn't that the governor's Safe Streets? Isn't that part of what we're? I mean, I'm trying to find a way where the governor's office can fund it. Often, one of the things we do at the legislature is that if it doesn't have to be on our back, but we want to take care of you, we take it from wherever it needs to come from. When somebody outside starts saying, GPD should do this, then we say, then you should pay for it. Because we know what we need to find. We need to find funding to take care of you folks. Okay, that's the easy one. And then I'm from Jigu. You want to construct a new substation in Jigu? How much is that supposed to cost?
That's actually
that's a GURA thing?
That's a federal grant. I mean, Defense Community Infrastructure Program. So we're actually pursuing grants outside of the normal channels to fund it. Yeah.
Okay, and where are we at with that property that we have near the power station or the gym? The GPD is in full control.
Yeah, so
we did that several years ago.
That's this evidence control section.
Right.
It's with, last we checked, it's with the governor's office. So I'm not sure if it's one of those contracts that may have been gotten caught up in this issue between the governor's office and the attorney general's office about the signature for contracts.
Okay, and the reason why I brought up about the school violence program prevention, right, the 1.5, right, you mentioned, you identified that it's also part of a grant. What is the grant? It's asking a matching of 1.5? Because if it's matching, it's easy for us. Whenever you apply for a grant and you say, the grant is $5 million and you need to give 10% or 20% or whatever percentage, then it's easier for us to invest in that because why? We're putting money when there's a lot of money from the federal government. And I'm just curious, it's on page 6 of your site, another grant proposed aimed at school violence prevention. Is that in reference to the 1.5?
No, so there's different funding opportunities that come up. And so we pursue all these funding opportunities. So one of the programs under the Department of Justice is the School Violence Prevention Program. And yeah, so we haven't received any feedback yet from any of these grant applications. So we don't know if we're getting awarded or not. The 1.5 million that we're asking is strictly for what we're doing locally with this Safe Schools initiative, which is getting our officers there, present day in, day out.
Okay, no, I support that, Chief. But
Yes,
I'm just trying to find a way where, if it's on a grant, have you guys applied for the grant already?
Yes, we have, but I think that thing was just turned in not last week, then this week.
Okay, but I know that through the grant process, you identify what the percentage could be for matching. Am I correct? I see a lot of heads shaking. That means I'm correct what I'm saying. So I'm just curious, what is the percentage that's perceived that could be the percentage that you need matching? 20%? Go ahead, just say it. 20%? 50%?
So for the school violence prevention project, we're asking for $200,000, and it requires a 25% match.
You know what? You asking?
It's a small grant. So some of our school violence prevention projects could be just outreach activities, anti-bullying, social media projects. We got to have a social media presence because that's where the school kids are at, on social media.
Okay. Now on the only one last thing I think I should ask. Okay, well, before the last one, the $500,000 for the memorial, I have no problem. We'll figure that out on the budget. We'll make sure it carries on. Because remember, that's what we started last year.
Yes,
we
sir.
wanted to carry it on.
Yes, sir.
And with all the systems going on with the AG, nothing ever moved. But the first one they're going to call is GPD. Hey, we need help. But for what process funding contract? The only last thing I'm really concerned about is the $9 million for personnel costs.
Right.
That's a 25% increase, no?
So that $9 million is all-inclusive. What I mean by that is it takes into account the base salary adjustment for 25.59%.
Okay.
So, in addition to that, we also have to continue to pay the 10% hazardous, which is by statute under Title IV.
Yeah, this easy one.
Yeah, and then the 10 or 15% retention pay, depending on your rank. So according to the recommendation of the memo, so it's the 25.59%, and you do not lose any of your other differential pay or incentive pays. So the 10% is on top of the 25.59% for the retention pay for the police officer 1 or trainee up to sergeant 2. And then for a lieutenant, captain, and a major and the colonel, it's a 15% retention pay that's on top of the 25.59%.
Okay, I think there
And
was one.
so, and then that $9 million is inclusive of all of that, plus the fringe benefits that are associated with it, the retirement payment and what?
Zauzi friends benefits, I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, but that's okay, Chief.
Yes. So it's an all-inclusive number.
Yeah, actually, now just teasing you. The reason why I'm asking that question is because I'm looking at page 8 on your slide. You did a comparison with federal officers.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm happy for that. You identified police officer 1, then the trainee. Yeah, you did from. Ooh. You have 2 different groups there. You got a. The hazardous. That's for me. That's an easy one. It's by law. You got to get 10%. But I'm trying to understand. You have 2 groups. Pay grade IL 21-01. The first group after the GPD current pay, and then you got a GPD adjustment of 25. So you go to. So really, we just go to the GPD pay adjustment of 25.9, and just go all the way across, and we're looking at a police officer will make $25 an hour, correct?
Right. So what we wanted to show you in that slide is, this is what it looks like now. This is what it looks like with the addition of the 25.59%. With that addition of the 25.59%, a police officer trainee or a police officer 1 is going to make a lot more than a GS5 or a GS6. So for the first time, and we've been talking about this, right, for many
Yes.
years at oversight hearings, budget hearings annually, Chief, what can we do to retain more police officers? And we all know through either formal or informal exit interviews with our employees that are leaving us, it's because of salary. The primary reason is of salary. And I'll tell you right now, now that the word is out about the 25.59% increase, I have one guy that left to Camp Blas who's coming back. He's already in processing. I have another employee who left last year, and he's asked what does he need to do to come back.
The only thing I'm worried about, Chief, is that, okay, let's hypothetically say we get this pass, you get the initiative, you get the pay increase, and then the federal government comes up with something, and then the same officer that left runs away again. I'm just concerned is that when we start pushing for pay increase, there's got to be some form of commitment that they can't leave for at least 2 or 3 years, something so that, you know, you're getting the bang for your dollar. Because as you're fighting and as everybody else is fighting for the pay increase, mga mahal say pay, and then today, yeah, only kagupa, policy be pakya garto, but be biro when they pay increase.
So what we're doing to address that concern is actually with the next police training cycle,
Right?
we have now a payback provision in place.
Okay.
So we're going to commit them to a minimum of 3 years. If you don't stay for 3 years, you have to pay back the training costs for the Guam Police Department, to the Guam Community College, because we use the workforce development program, the apprenticeship program, to pay for their training costs. So that's the only thing we can recover. We cannot recover salaries, of course, because they work for it.
We'll recover the money to the police department, not to anybody else, because the funding is going to you.
No, the funding comes from GCC.
What funding what funding you're
The
getting from GC?
apprenticeship program
The apprenticeship program?
pays for all of their tuition and education. Yeah. So we cannot recover salaries because they've worked for that.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure money comes back to you folks.
Yeah.
okay?
So at least at a minimum, the next cycle, we should see them stay for 3 years. But with the 25.59%, there's a lot of incentive for them to stay now.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they're not going to find that salary anywhere in the federal government.
Okay. And you know, Chief, many folks probably say, how come San Agustin is so in favor of the GPD? I'm a 19th cycle graduate. former police officer. When Senator Blas joined the police force, I was on my way out while he was just coming in '82.
And we thank you too for your support.
And
we look forward to the others.
I know. I'll tease Senator Blas all the time about it because he stayed a lot longer than me. But you know what? I appreciate the Blues. No doubt about that. I have full respect for you folks. And I'm going to leave it to my colleagues to ask questions. I got a little bit of reservations, but I'm going to try to figure out how we can fund it. We got to find a way to keep you guys funded. The only catch I have is that when the other law enforcement start asking for increase, one of the biggest things I'm going to question is that, number one, are you qualified to be a police officer one? And it's not against any other law enforcement group, but I think I talked to a couple of you majors and captains here. There's certain ranks are not equivalent to the rank you officers hold. There's no doubt, I have no doubt about that. I mean, I did a little bit of research on that one. I'm like, your rank, and then you're not even equivalent. And I'm just concerned about the marketing program that you have. I'm hoping that you do have a good marketing program to recruit police officers. And if they're in the Balea, then at least vet them so that they know that when they graduate, they can be hired. Not they graduate and then they hope to get hired, then you find out that they got a longer record than anybody else. You know, that's one of the scary parts. And that's what the vetting, so that when people want to go into the Balea program, it's not just everybody. You can go into Balea, but if it's for the purpose of joining a law enforcement, you've got to clear. You got to have a clean record. And then you can continue. That's what my concern is. And with that, I'd ask Senator Barnett, the oversight chair, it's all for you now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief, and to your command staff as well for being here today. And congratulations on this recommendation from the Department of Administration to increase the base pay. You're right, that has been the constant conversation. Every time we sit down together in this room, how can we retain? How can we recruit? And I think this is I commend the administration for doing this, especially in a timely manner. I know there's actually another measure that this body's entertaining relative to another set of increases for another law enforcement entity. This one, however, in the Government of Guam. So I don't know if you have anything maybe you could prepare. I'd like to also see a comparative analysis, not just with the federal, but also with the Government of Guam. Because I think one thing that we've also been consistent in saying here is that if the Guam Police Department is going to be the premier law enforcement agency that it is, we have to be able to compensate the uniformed personnel in GPD like they are the premier law enforcement agency. And so, yeah, the numbers are great. I'm more worried about the local government side, because it does seem to be like, the last couple of years have been a runaway train with some of the pay increases. So anything we can do to preserve Guam Police Department and this retention pay, or, I've also got that bill. I think that, the $10,000 bonuses combined with the 25% increase of the base pay could help us, not just, because I don't think we want to be in a position where we're just paying GPD enough, right? We also want to make it very attractive so that we get the good candidates in the department, because Lord knows it's very needed.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, awesome. So how many cycles did you have in this last fiscal year?
Just one. And they're currently out in OJT. So they'll be graduating in July 26.
I know that we had talked earlier this year about possibly funding another cycle. So in the upcoming fiscal year, do you think with this increase in the base pay that you might be able to do more than one cycle?
Yes, so currently we still have some funding available to hire the next police cycle.
Nice.
So DOA actually, I'd like to thank HR, Human Resources at DOA. They've actually been actively testing for police officer trainees. And so I don't have the numbers yet, but we are ready to receive the cert list from them so that we can start recruiting for the next police cycle.
Nice. I think the other challenge that we've talked about here in this room relative to the recruitment part of the Guam Police Department's challenges is the test, right? And so I know that you guys had stood up at Tejan High, kind of like similar to a JROTC, but I guess we'll just call it PROTC, police, right?
Yeah.
Officer training course. So are you at all planning to kind of like gear students in that cohort to focus on what could be in the test?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up, Senator Barnett. So I actually just had a meeting last week with Principal Sophie Duenas, Colonel Flores, I believe is his last name, and along with my staff from the Guam Police Department. And so what happened is sometime last year, there was a school out in Tennessee that actually has a police track program similar to a JROTC program in a Tennessee high school, and they asked for a police badge. And so in turn, I sent one of my staff to write back to this sergeant who quit from this local police force to be an instructor. And they said, can you please send us your curriculum for your police training program? And so he did. And so I received that. It starts in your sophomore year, and it takes you all the way through your senior year. And you go in this similar police track program. And so it's almost going to be similar to like a culinary or automotive program with the Guam Community College. So because the school year starts in August, Principal Duenas and I have agreed that we're going to move this program forward, but we have to have that conversation with the Guam Community College for them to, as a buy-in for this training program, so it'll be modeled similar to like an automotive or culinary arts program, so that we can start this in FY 25, 26. So that's our target date for the launch. So there's still a lot of moving pieces, but we have a model based on this Tennessee high school. And interesting to note that Principal Sophie Duenas mentioned to me that there's a school district that this person may be from, that this school district in Tennessee started the career high school program for high schools. So that's kind of interesting, notes.
Very encouraged to hear that. I know Principal Duenas has a bunch of different career courses and tracks and opportunities at Teason High School. That's really good to hear. I also want to commend the department for the other types of outreach programs you guys do with the Project U, right? The kickball, the DARE education, the citizenship
Yes.
classes. Chief, does this budget that you're presenting to this body, does it sustain, maintain, or improve those programs?
Yes, so it'll be able to, especially, so in the past, we've actually just used the Safe Schools Initiative, which was, 300,000 last 2 years ago, under some thousand this year. And again, the 1.5 is inclusive of the overtime for the officers, similar to an SRO program. But we can continue to use that funding source because we do support the Junior Police Cadet Program, our kickball tournament, but also the summer camp. We have one going on right now.
And so all those programs are going to be intact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Does the budget that you're presenting to the body also meet or hopefully exceed the needs for equipment and other essentials for the uniformed personnel in the department?
Yes, sir. And wherever we fall short without the funding for locally, we pursue federal grant funding. So some of the grants that we're pursuing are for like the tactical armored vehicle. Again, doesn't the only way to find out if you're going to get it is if you ask, right? And submit an application. I mean, we submitted a grant application to the Department of Interior. Now we're going to get a fully outfitted crime scene response van.
Nice.
Yeah.
I saw that in there. And then previously, before the Committee on Public Safety had talked about a few $1 million that was available for the purchase of vehicles. Is that moving forward? Is that not included in the budget?
Not in this budget, but it's we're using, I believe, we're using available ARPA funds at this time, and so we've already submitted the bid specs to GSA, but understanding that the costs locally for these vehicles have gone up significantly, what we're doing is we're also having conversations with federal GSA, and maybe also we've had a conversation with Director Byrne. There's another organization called the National Association of State Procurement Officers, NASPO. And so some of them have collective or cooperative buying agreements, where several jurisdictions come together and buy bulk police cars, bulk fire trucks, or bulk equipment. And so they get a discounted price. those are conversations we're having. We're not sure where it's gonna go from here, but we've already budgeted at the current market rate locally for 28 patrol police vehicles.
Also, in the budget meetings, you had talked about $200,000 for funding a War on Ice conference. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, initially we were going to include that, but considering our budget request, I believe that talking to my ASO that we're able to find that money within the budget. I would like next year to host similar to a War on Ice conference. I think it's time to get together with all three branches of government, both federal and local, and have an open and honest, frank conversation about what we can do to fight this ICE in our community.
Really appreciate that, Chief. And if funding is a challenge at all, make sure you let us know, and I'll be sure to buy Senator Joe his lifesavers if that's what I have to do.
I'll come down and ask you for more money.
Thank you. Can you also just elaborate a little bit more on what the $1.5 million for the Safe Schools Initiative will cover? Because DOE was in here just a few hours ago, and they're asking for $2 million, which I believe would go to hiring 4 classified SROs. So just with the 1.5, and then if DOE's reimbursing or anything, if you could just share that with the committee.
Yeah, I kind of caught that earlier. I was listening to their budget presentation. And so, again, we're not aware that they were going to come in and ask for $2 million to support SRO program using police officers. If that's the case and they're going to get funded for that, then that'll probably we'll be able to subtract that $1.5 million from our budget request because it'll be offset by their request. And there's something, that's a conversation I did have with Dr. Swanson early on. I had my command staff, Colonel Joe, and most of the people here seated at the table with me. I said, I'm going to go ask for money to support the Safe Schools Initiative, the police officers' presence. If they're not able to give it from me, I'm either going to ask that they carve it out from your budget or that you ask for it in your budget so that we can continue to support you because it does cost money. It's an unfunded mandate right now, or unfunded initiative. Not a mandate, just an initiative that we're using, to make our schools safe for our children.
When you said subtract from the budget, I think he got excited over here. So what are you currently providing what services are you currently providing to DOE as part of this Safe Schools Initiative?
So we have officers at every high school come in the morning during drop-off. We come back during break, the first morning break. We come back at lunchtime, and then we come back at dismissal. And then if you're up in the JFK Simon Sanchez area, which is sharing one campus, we also now help with traffic direction, getting those herds of kids across the crosswalk safely. Yeah, and so our presence has gone a long way. Like I said, the letter itself is a testament, and this just from one. I talked to Principal Sophie Diaz when we had the discussion last week about the high school track for police, and she also acknowledged that our presence helps, along with Mr. Ponzalan, the assistant principal.
Well, I can tell you, Chief, no matter how few administrators you might have heard from, I'm pretty sure all of them are very encouraged and grateful for the services that your department is providing.
Yeah, it's gone a long way to decrease school violence.
Right. So if you were watching earlier, we kind of went from talking about the presence of the uniformed personnel at the campuses to the rash of break-ins that continues. And these are, by and large, break-ins that are happening after school hours, right? So can you just share, how does this budget address those types of break-ins and robberies, which are creating a strain on the department? Obviously, they've facilities and maintenance, they break down the door, they got to go in and fix it. And it's a little difficult, too, because we've just now, I heard, enter the final stages of procuring the fencing for a lot of the schools. So a lot of our perimeter security at different schools was compromised, if not completely destroyed, in Typhoon Mawar. So how does this budget accommodate for those types of things, and what efforts, if any, is GPD undertaking to ensure safety of the campuses during non-school hours?
Yes. So a couple of weeks ago, realizing that the kids are out of school and maybe some of them don't have anything productive to do. One of the things we've gone out is on the talk show that we have with 105 The Cat. We did talk about, ways that you can keep your kids busy during the summertime. We realized that during summertime, as evident with the recent rash of incidences down in Agate, Santa Rita, sometimes kids are going to find other things to do that are non-productive, that are criminal in nature. And so with that in mind, Criminal Investigation Division is taking the lead. Captain Kim Santos here to my far right. They've put together an operations plan that is going to address curfew, crimes involving minors, and also targeting presence on the school campuses. So most of the police precinct commanders and their division chiefs have been instructed many months ago to make sure that we have access to the schools after hours, so that we can go in and have let our presence be known through foot patrols. Captain Kim is taking charge in that initiative, and so next week we'll be kicking off our assignment to address crimes involving juveniles. Everything from curfew violations, alcohol violations, to just having a presence out in the street.
Thank you for that, Chief. Thank you, Captain. So I had also suggested GPD because and I don't know if this will be an issue now that we have the 25% increase in the base pay, but Superintendent Swanson acknowledged the difficulties you have in recruiting personnel, and so he had anticipated there might be challenges, I hope not, but in filling these SRO positions. So I had said, hey, if you are having difficulty hiring personnel, maybe look into security system, camera systems. Is that something you think would help deter these types of acts at the schools?
I remember many years ago, even before I became chief, there was like a large pot of money that was given to Department of Education for surveillance camera systems. I don't know, I've never seen that thing had anything positive in solving crimes. Yeah, so maybe if they're willing to invest in better upgraded camera systems that would really cover the actual campus. Yeah, but I have never seen anything substantial come out of their camera systems yet. So hopefully they invest in better systems.
Right. So for the record, though, you're committing, and Captain Kim, the increased presence at the schools because it's summer. So.
And like the Agate Santa Rita cases, we were able to solve all of those cases. 5 minors were taken into custody over the period of the investigation.
There was one thing I saw that was a little concerning, and maybe you can elaborate on this, but it was a decrease in the amount of money you're requesting for operations and patrols. Ops and patrols, so fiscal year 24, you requested just about 17 million, 16.9 million. Fiscal year 25, you're requesting 15.5. Does this...
What page are you on, sir?
I'm on my own notes that I made for that breakdown. But I'm just worried, given the prevalent crime, right?
Yeah.
So are we decreasing money for patrols or not?
Yeah, our projection is based on the manpower and increasing the numbers of people. But it also reflects just what we're going to have to pay for our current staffing. And then, of course, when we hire, we understand the projected cost for that. So when we talked about the 20 police officer trainees in our budget for FY25, all those costs are inclusive, the 25.59% and all differential pay.
Chief, I know that the DOA has recommended the implementation of the 25.6 base pay increase, but do you have a date when this will be paid out?
So initially we were supposed to start on June 9th, 2 days after it was signed, which is the Sunday after the first pay period. I understand in a conversation that I had with my administrative services officer, Ms. Nelly, that there are certain requirements that we have to meet. Of course, there's some paperwork that have to be filled in. And so at some point very soon, the start date will commence.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not like we're waiting for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. It's just a matter of paperwork. We've all been busy with our budget preparation.
I understand you don't want to give a date, right? So just soon.
Well, I actually did, so I have to walk that back a little. Yeah, my apologies, guys.
Sorry, guys.
But they're all excited. They're all still smiling.
Okay. Chief, was there ever a retention pay offered or promised for Sergeant 2s?
No, so there's been an, so what's going on right now is a Sergeant 2 under the current Department of Administration schedule, they're considered exempt employees. So they don't necessarily qualify for overtime. They're treated in the same category as a lieutenant, captain, major, and police colonel. However, when it comes to their retention pay, they're categorized into the non-exempt category. They only get 10% retention pay and not the 15%. So the Sergeant 2s brought that up to my attention. I forwarded a request for review, and Director Burns' findings is that they're not considered management by the position description and the job title that they hold. So I spoke to the Sergeant 2s, and so we're going to revisit their letter. And so what we're going to do now is then, okay, if you're not going to consider me management and get me the 15%, and you're going to treat me as non-exempt, although you categorize me as exempt currently, then we're going to request that they be treated as non-exempt. Therefore, that allows them to accrue overtime, like a Sergeant 1 and a Police Officer 3. Yeah.
So it's safe
that's the current finding of the Department of Administration.
Okay.
So this just happened about 2-3 weeks ago. So
Right.
it's something that we're going to reply to.
Right, thank you, because I'd been in receipt of some concerns from some of the Sergeant 2s who...
Yes.
Okay, so they had felt like they were left in limbo, but you're resolving this, and your intention is to restore them whole, whether they fall on the management side or the non...
Yeah, so again, the position of DOA is you're not management. And so then our position then is if they're not management, then remove them from exempt and make them non-exempt.
Chief, so the 25.5 base pay, is that separate from the, I think I saw something here in my notes, the 2% pay increase?
Yeah, which one?
You have a 2% pay increase, right? That's a $2 million law enforcement from the pay plan?
No, so the 25.59% is going to your base salary. Then after that, there's the 10% retention pay for a police officer trainee up to a Sergeant 2, and then a 15% retention pay from a lieutenant up to the police commander. Yeah. So it's on top of...
So there's no 2% annually?
No. So remember when the first law enforcement pay increase was adopted 3 years ago in 2021, the recommendation at the time is that based on this current pay scale, we recommend an addition of 2% every year for the next 3 years, and then another review in 3 years from now on where we should be at with the salary. But unless I'm reading things wrong, this 25.59% is 4 times more than the 6% they would get if we were to pursue that 2% annually. So I think we better than make them whole with the 2%, because this actually adjusts their base salary. It's not a differential pay on top of what their base salary is.
Thank you for that clarification,
Yes, sir.
Chief. I'm good for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Sudas Masi.
All right, thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Cananta, do you have any questions? You'll be followed by Senator Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to find out, the vehicles, when you guys get into a little bit of feisty situations with some of your clients, right? I just wanted to clarify, when those individuals wreck the vehicle, do you guys pursue them for those damages, or?
We do. Sometimes we do get letters or emails from the Attorney General's office when these defendants plead guilty. But I'll tell you right, Senator, like this one time I was given, I think, $25 a month for a patrol car that was damaged by a defendant for like X amount of months. You got to understand that some of the people we pursue, some of the people that intentionally damage our patrol cars. Most of them probably are unemployed, don't have jobs, and a lot of them, we find have addiction to a substance.
Okay, thank you. Fingerprinting, I'm not too sure if you guys were doing this before, but when you guys were doing the Guam ID, you guys used to do fingerprinting. Do you recall why you guys stopped doing that?
Yeah, so the function of issuing the Guam ID has reverted back to Department of Revenue Tax. So we don't fingerprint anymore for Guam IDs, but we still do fingerprinting for firearms IDs. Yeah, and our fingerprint now has gone from paper, ink and paper to electronic.
Yeah, because I know you guys you issue out the firearms ID. So do you think that that's something that can help you guys capture individuals who are criminal or involved in criminal activity? Because now you don't have as much people registered, right? Because the only people you guys are registering are the ones who are registering themselves for firearms ID. DRT doesn't do fingerprinting with the driver's license. Do you think that's something that can be beneficial towards capturing individuals, or those people again are not going to have?
So I'm not. It's my understanding that the Guam ID reverting back to revenue tax, I think it's because I'm not the expert here right now, but it's my understanding that by statute they were the agency that was charged with issuing IDs, and somehow it ended up with the Guam Police Department. It may have been a DPS, Department of Public Safety thing at the time, and so many years ago it reverted back to, or it was transferred over to revenue tax. I do understand your concern. That was one of our concerns, is that we're not capturing fingerprint identifications for people who just generally want to get a Guam ID. Yeah.
Okay. Your Cobans in Tuman, what's the situation with those?
The Coban in Tuman is still active. We use it for a beach patrol unit, and so it's not staffed with a person and a body, but we actually have all our beach patrol equipment there, and it's actively used. We have three to four police reserves that actively come in every Saturday and Sunday and do beach patrol duties.
Okay, thank you. Whatever happened to the motorcycle cops?
We haven't bought motorcycles in many years. It's a money thing, of course. A new motorcycle, at least the last time we did some market research, was upwards of $50,000 per motorcycle. That's for a fully outfitted police patrol motorcycle vehicle. Police patrol motorcycle, I'm sorry. One of the things that happened, of course, is unfortunately our mechanic for the motorcycle retired, and we haven't been able to replace motorcycle mechanic, and that's also partly because there were no purchases of motorcycles since back then.
Noted. Thank you so much, Chief. One last one. Integration of the 911 system. I understand you guys are not in the 911 with GFD.
Right.
So what is your status on procuring a new
So,
911 system?
yeah, the primary reason why we're not integrated yet with the 911 system is because the system that we have, the dispatch councils that are currently up at Civil Defense, that's that 30-year-old system that we've been talking about with the Guam Police Department. And so really, it doesn't make any fiscal sense because the cost to remove a 30-year-old system from Civil Defense down the street to DNA Plaza was well in excess of $1 million. And there was no guarantee that if we moved such an old system that it was going to work. We're well underway with our land mobile radio system upgrade. And unfortunately, I can't say too much at this point because we're already at the phase where we've reviewed proposals. Yeah, but suffice to say, it's moving along very well, and we should have something soon. I believe by August, we should be able to make an announcement of where we're at.
Thank you so much, Chief. In regards to that as well, I brought this up in the fire department's hearing. I'm sure if you're familiar with IPAWS. So IPAWS, IPAWS, basically a SOS operating system that can notify massively throughout the area where there's to be on the lookout for whatever vehicle stolen at this time, approximately, make, model, and all that stuff, all that statistics. And also if there's a kidnapping, I mean, obviously they're not going to go far, but I mean, we still have people, I guess, that want to go to another state with a high-speed chase, but there's nowhere else to go on Guam. You're just going to go in circles. But, for that reasoning, I was just wondering if you guys think that's something that's beneficial for the community to invest in towards or to pursue further.
Yes, absolutely. So that's kind of come up before when we've talked about Amber Alerts. And so there's certain things that requirements that we haven't met yet, but something that we need to look forward to. I know you're talking about, instant notification to anybody that pretty much has a cell phone holding it in their hand.
Thank you. One last question, Mr. Chair. In regards to SIMs being sold out there in the community, right? We have ITNE, GTA, and Docomo, right? All three respective companies have their own SIM cards. Fortunately, we don't track, with these burner phones. Do you think that's something that we should start doing, tracking people and having their SIM cards being registered, so that the number is just not a dumpable number, that it's trackable in the event that you find them in cooperation with other?
I know that we've come across a lot of, especially now, we rely a lot on what we call the digital forensics. And so we have in the federal side our task force officers, and also we have built capacity within our criminal investigation division for the digital forensics unit. So they get trained in how to, extract information from phones, whether a burner phone or an actual postpaid or prepaid phone. But I think that's a concern, right? That you can just come into any store, go in and just buy a SIM card. Haven't really given that much thought, but something we can look into. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chief. And then thank you to all the brothers in blue, sisters as well. We thank you guys for your service and your families, most especially, who go to sleep not knowing whether you're going to return home. I know it's a very tough situation for a lot of you, but for those of you who have continued to serve our island tirelessly, regardless of your pay, regardless of what the community's outcries are or what they put you guys into in situations, I appreciate, and most especially the community of Guam appreciates all your service and time and the sacrifice you guys put in. Thank you again. God bless. Take care.
Thank you, Senator Canata.
Thank you, Senator Canata. Senator Blas, do you have any questions for the panel?
Really?
Go for it, Primo.
Thank you. Chief and
Sir.
Staff, thank you very much for being here. And thank you for continuing to serve. I look around the room, I think there's only one person in this room that's a little bit older than me in as far as serving. Okay? No one came, just, yes, I'm talking about you, Cap. Yeah. Chief, I want a little bit more, just to understand what you're asking for as far as the budget request. The governor's request, or your initial request, was for $55,180,064.
Yes, sir.
That's right?
Yes, that was our initial budget ceiling.
That's your initial budget ceiling.
Right.
So you came in here and are asking for an additional $9 million to be able to address the pay.
Right.
And $2 million to address the HVAC. So that's about
Right.
an additional $11 million.
Plus the 1.5 for the safe
Plus the
schools.
1.5. So now it's up to about $67.5 million from
Yes,
the
sir.
initial 55. Question that I have, because the governor's request, when it comes in as far as executive agency, it comes in as far as a lump sum or a sum, and then he says of the sum we're going to divvy it out. Is the additional $14 million, where's that coming from? Because the governor, if you look at what the governor's request is and what she anticipates the revenues to be, is the governor intend to increase her revenue projections to be able to accommodate this?
That's a question
That's above your pay grade?
yeah.
Okay. And then, so, we're just trying to find ways here, Chief, because again, we're dealing with a certain number when you're dealing with not just GPD, but every other agency. And within that certain number is the breakdown. But then when you come in here and you ask for an additional $14 million, okay, above what was in this bubble, you know, this bubble, has the governor, has the administration said that they are in support of this thing and they're going to increase the revenue because, you know, every time we try to adjust that and every try to do something, they tell us they stay out of their business. And then when we try to look, this is your business, this is not our business, this is your business, then they throw it back at us and says they make, you know, find the money.
I do know, and I think it's safe to say that they do support the 25.59%.
I understand, but are they willing to say that they're going to increase their revenue projections for that? Because if we don't, Chief, then what's going to happen is then we're going to have to, she's leaving it up to this body to find that $12 million from within the rest of her budget. That means you're going to undercut and shortchange another agency.
Right, I understood,
Okay.
yeah, so
And
I guess that's not a conversation for me, because
well, I think that this is a conversation actually for you, Steve, because
no, I mean, you're asking me about revenue projections and where's she
Right.
gonna find it?
so
I
maybe
know
what I
that-
need you to do is you need to go back to the administration and basically get something from them saying that we're adjusting our revenue projections based on our budget request to accommodate, you know, this, you know, what GPD, the additional monies that GPD needs. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You know, if it's in the budget in that fashion, guys, we can get it. The concern is here when we're talking about $14 million, okay, where do we cut from the bone? Or, you know, what meat, who's going to get less of a pie? And I don't want that to fall on the shoulders of you guys that, look, the reason why this agency got cut this much is because the boys in blue needed this money and we took it away from them.
Well, you know, I because this thing is new, the $9 million for the
Understood.
salaries. I also know that, you know, it's the legislature that appropriates the money. And I understand it's based on a projection of how much money is the government going to collect, or how much that is anticipated they're going to collect. But, you know, my job also too is because it's implemented, is to also I ask to make sure that it's funded for and appropriated for.
So let me get this correct. You've already implemented your 25% pay increase
Yes, we're going to be able to fund it to the end of the fiscal year.
with your current budget.
Yes.
The current budget authorized you to go ahead and do it?
Well, we have some, I think, ARPA funds that we're going to be tapping into to pay for this,
See now,
or some
there
other
she
funds.
goes again. Okay? You know, and it's no fault to you guys. I'm glad that we're able to get it, but once you start to commingle these things and then there's an expectation that it's picked up by a local budget, somebody got to talk to us about this. And it's not you. You know, somebody within DOA or BBMR, even the governor's office. Okay?
Senator,
They made the promise to you guys, and we will try to keep it. So I'm not faulting you guys for this. But what they did was they put you out there, okay, with a promise, and then they don't even talk to us how we're going to fund it in the future.
I'm just trying to find a way to keep my guys.
I understand, Chief, I understand. And we're trying to find the same way. But Chief, when we have a budget that comes in and the budget doesn't reflect any of this, then how, you know, if it doesn't reflect what they want to be able to provide to the police officers, then what are we telling our officers? We'll make the promise today, but we're not going to be able to keep it tomorrow? We can't have that. We got to stop that. Okay? Let's go back to the pay increases that they gave you. Initially, they gave you what, 15, 18%?
18%.
18%. Then they went around and turned around and gave everybody else 22%. Why didn't they give you the 22%? They gave the teachers, the nurses, 15%. Then they had to make, you had to come back in here and beg for that? Why did you have to beg for it? Again, you know, Chief, you got to take it from the perspective that we have. It's not that we don't want to say no to this, but it's like, where is this in the budget? In the budget, the request that you have. I don't expect you to come in here and tell me, give me BBM, the response I should be getting from DOA or BBMR, because they're the ones with the budget projection. But what I would expect is when something like this comes in, is basically the only document that I have here is Edward Burns said give the 25%. I'm looking for, okay, under what authority and where's the money coming from?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Okay? And then I need to ask, as far as the 25%, and first off, you also get incentive pay? Is this an annual or a retention pay?
Yeah, that's on top of the 25.59%.
And is that an annual one or is that a one-time?
No, it only applies when the officer is on duty and not on leave. Yeah.
But when does he get it? Is the officer entitled to that pay every year?
Yes, because it's part of the initial implementation of the 18% law enforcement pay plan. So what was carved out to kind of help the Guam Police Department, because it's only unique to the Guam Police Department, is the 10 and 15% retention pay.
Okay.
So the other law enforcement agencies don't get that retention pay.
Instead of giving you the 22%, it should have been 22 and it should be 22 and 10 then, right? Instead of 10 and 15?
No,
That's what it should have been.
What do you mean?
What did you initially get? 15, 18%?
We got 18%.
18%.
Yeah. So it's 18% plus 10%
Right.
for officers of certain
So
rank.
that's what we got. Okay, it should have been 22% plus 10.
Should be 18 plus 10, 28%.
But it should have been 22% plus 10. If you were supposed to be parity amongst with all the government entities, employees, right? You only got 18%, everybody else got 22.
Well, technically we got 28%.
You got 28?
30.
No,
Yeah.
because I'm
Okay,
not counting
yeah.
that
Yes.
pay. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not counting that pay.
So
Okay.
if we had followed the initial executive order, if we had added the 6% over the next 3 years, which this would have been year 3, it probably would have been 24%, but it's actually increased because of the 25.59%.
Of which there was the authorization, but was there an executive order that gave you the 25%?
Which one?
Was there an executive order?
Which, the 25%?
Yeah, the one you have is starting in June.
No, it's just a memorandum
Just a memorandum.
signed and approved by the acting governor.
Guys, I'm going to hate to say this, okay? It's a memorandum. It's not by law,
Right. Right. Yeah, I understand.
okay? She's doing it again. Okay, making the promises and not putting it by law. If you can put it in by executive order, which she did at 22%, it carries the force and effect of law. There's no force and effect in as far as in a memorandum. It's an understanding. Okay? Again, Chief, I understand and I'm glad you're still standing over the guys. Okay? But when I'm finding a lot of this stuff, there's nothing in the law that basically says that you guys are supposed to be able to get it. Why not?
Well, it's almost similar to the 18%.
It's not similar, Chief. There is an
We got
executive
executive
order
order.
and there's a law. It's not the same. Check back and look at when you got your 18% and the 22%. It was by executive order. Okay? I'm having these conversations to protect that pay for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So you can go back to the administration and say, look, can they take that away or can this be taken away? Can you strip it away? And you see, if you think that they can't do this, check your merit bonuses. Merit bonus was by statute. Some of you had to wait 10 years to be able to get it. And then the repayment of it was by law. Fusion Center, operations. You have officers assigned there?
Yes, sir. I have one officer.
Okay, how's that coming along for you and as far as the operations of the Fusion Center?
I don't oversee the operations of the Fusion Center. I only assign a person there. And I do have one officer that's currently there.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking as far as this is because, that's supposed to be to help you, your backbone for intelligence.
Yes.
Okay, and there has been some concern that has been brought to this body with regards to the operations of not just in Homeland Security, but the Fusion Center itself. Okay, and whether or not there's fidelity, and whether there's effectiveness, is it effectively helping you? And
For the longest time, I haven't seen any product come out of Fusion Center. However, in the past couple of months, I have seen on a weekly basis a Fusion Center bulletin.
okay,
So there's been some improvement. Yeah.
okay, that's good. Okay, lastly, you know, guys, unfortunately, okay, I'm in a chat group with a bunch of individual GPD retirees and veterans, okay? And they've asked me to be able to share some, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, some disappointment. So I'm just going to read this verbatim, as to what was received, okay? Our department has changed. I've called dispatch twice for assistance. They don't seem to take their job seriously. Waited for hours for a welfare check. GFD responded after waiting for GPD for 30 minutes, still no show. Unacceptable. Took off the other words that came between un and acceptable. Times have changed. There are just officers that are useless and should turn in their badge. I had another one. I had a disappointing issue as well. At 04:30 hours, I reported a suspicious individual hanging out in a parking lot, which I believe was casing out vehicles. The dispatch officer, whom I'm not going to mention, after providing the individual's description, asked me why I thought the individual may be trying to commit a crime. I guess my 27 years in law enforcement cannot allow me to identify a suspicious individual. The officer instead told me he knows the individual and that he is harmless and there's no need to send an officer to check out my concerns. In other words, the officer's ability to predict what an individual will or will not do is now taught at the police academy. Well, the next week, the same individual had broken into several cars nearby and was arrested. Outstanding service. Next one. The same officer responded to a 1023 with a suspect's son breaking appliances. The mom called for a PS to talk to son who walked away to cool off. The officer took the report. Mom requested for records. Son ended up on a bolo and was arrested. Mom calls the officer, and his response to her was that she should have told him that it was a PS so they wouldn't be wasting GPD's time. I later spoke to a supervisor who spoke to him. The counseling didn't bother the officer. Guam's finest? No longer it is. Gone are the days of service. I'm grateful for all your guidance and mentoring, although I only retired with my badge, no other recognition from the chief but a police officer to show the gratitude I get from my peers and constituents represents more. Guys, please, okay? And we're getting more and more of these kind of, Chief, remember my incident at Silanya Precinct? January 15, 2023. I purposely saved it for today. Still haven't gotten any response. And I was there made to wait for 2 hours for a police service and nobody ever came out to talk to me. Let me tell you what happened today. That individual who I wanted, just to make sure that everything was taken care of. Just police presence. I wasn't going to ask the officer to talk. Just police presence. That individual ended up vandalizing my brother-in-law's home. Did we make a report? What for? I'm still waiting for a response from my police service. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Blas. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's hard to follow that from Senator Blas, but you know, we can look at the numbers today, and certainly I just have a few short questions with regards to that. But I think, Chief, when you run an organization, I think we all know that, those of us that have. I mean, sometimes what you hear and what appears is different from the day-to-day reality. I empathize with Senator Blas because I had that conversation with you last year trying to get a police report for my mom in an accident that she was involved in. She was not the responsible party. but she asked for my assistance because she was having difficulty. If it takes me 66 days, and how many trips up to the Sanihania precinct and how many trips down to the ITC building, and then when I get a police report from the accident or the crash as we refer to it, there's errors in it. And then I'm told, I'm sorry, the officer's the only one who can change it. And that's the time when I finally called you.
Right.
And I shouldn't have to do that. Any resident on Guam should not have to do that. And I think internally, probably that's something that you need to look at. You have some exceptional people, and you have some, unfortunately, that, you know, how many times am I going to call, say, my name's Joanne Brown, and give my same number to the same officer that I spoke to? And even I know that's, hey, that's not quite, you know. And then when I asked to speak to the supervisor, who I get, who did that officer contact? He contacted the officer that was supposedly the one that responded at the scene, the officer that was on guard duty. And the officer ends up telling me that he's not able to respond because he's on guard duty to August. This accident happened in early June. So it's just something that needs to be looked at, because I have no problem supporting, you know, getting the resources and the budget and the, you know, the pay, because I understand you're in competition with other entities that definitely want to take your people. But we also, as a community, expect people to be professional and responsible. We do expect that extra level because of the authority that you and your people carry. You know that. I mean, I'm preaching the choir talking to you. But that's not necessarily what's reflective with regards to the actual operations. I was not impressed. And I go, this is me after 30 years that I've been in public life, and, you know, for Senator Frank Blas himself, a former police officer himself, and if this is our experience, what more the average person on the street? The complaints I've gotten from some people to say, we just never get any feedback. And maybe their little incident is small on the totem pole to all the other, you know, issues and cases that you're dealing with, but to that person, that case matters. It might have something been stolen from them, or whatever the case may be that they've encountered. That's a big deal for them. And the feedback is the lack of response, and response in a timely fashion. I myself experienced on a minor issue. That was thank goodness, you know, my family was safe in that accident. It's not the end of the world. Cars can be replaced. But it's just the process itself, I think, that needs to be worked on. And I think that's the message, certainly, Senator Blas is relaying, and that's the message that I'm also relaying to you as well. Two things I just quickly wanted to ask. With regards to your office rental, is that currently, besides ITC, is there any other office rental you have for the Guam Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're leasing at the airport, from the airport, the headquarters where my office and criminal investigation
where your
is at.
office is up there, okay.
Yeah, it's the former customs offices.
Okay.
Then we also have a rental with a warehouse on Bellow Road. That's our evidence
For
control
storage.
section.
Okay.
But that's also the building that we're trying to build up in Jigo.
Okay.
Yeah, to replace that rental so that we don't have to rent anymore. And then the last place that we're renting is Magaʹhågan,
Okay.
right across the street from ITC.
And you also have personnel that are stationed there at that
Yeah,
building?
so the Services Bureau, which is our personnel section, admin division, supply, maintenance, they work out of the Magaʹhågan office along with our federal grant writers.
Are there plans to build another headquarters for you with GPD? That's what we like to see GURA money going to. You know?
I know we've talked about building headquarters.
Yeah.
But really, I'd like to build more police precincts to get our officers
But would that be
closer
able to
to people.
absorb, like your office, for example? Would you be able to accommodate that so you're not dealing with rental? I'd rather see the money going into long-term investment that you're going to benefit. You know,
Yeah,
it's your place, it's your office, and you, especially for what you have to store and whatever the case may be, is designed for your needs.
Yeah, and that's really the objective of getting that evidence section up in Jigo built, so that we don't have to spend that money on rental anymore. Because we've been renting since we moved out, I think, in 2015,
Okay.
out of the old Tizen evidence
Yes.
section.
Well, I hope that's something that we could look at, because I see, not just in your case, but in a lot of GovGuam agencies, we're doing a lot of rentals, and I think we recognize some of these key operations, particularly yours, is going to be a permanent need. And so I'd like to see the money that we're paying in rentals somehow, some way, be reinvested back into permanent facilities for you and your people to operate out of. The other thing I'm going to quickly bring up, because I do have another appointment I need to attend, this issue of drug testing, and I know we talked about this previously, and you had implemented the drug testing program. A little concerned that we're hearing lately you've had a couple officers that have tested positive. Good that they're being tested and you know who they are and you're finding them. Hopefully those issues can get addressed. But what more can be done within the Guam Police Department to discourage? Because, you know, The public, at the end of the day, in our most simplest perspective, we look at, the Guam police as those of you that we depend on for our health, our welfare, and keeping this community safe. And when it's our own, DOC, we hear it all the time, it's almost like an old story. Oh my God, who's the next DOC officer that's going to be the one to be bringing drugs into the prison? But we don't want that. I don't want to see that. I hope it ends for DOC, but I also don't want to see this to be a trend with the Guam Police Department, because obviously any officer that's involved in being or taking illegal drugs is getting from an illegal source, which means they're compromised to me. And what are you doing to stretch, that message? I know we have the whole scourge of methamphetamines and drugs in our community, and we're all depending, and it's on your shoulders. We're depending on you and your people to help us eradicate and catch those individuals that are responsible for putting this on our community. But what more can we do when it's one of your own that's getting involved in drugs, and they have the authority that they have, and that means there's something else going wrong here. They're engaged, the fact that they're even getting these drugs means they're getting it from an illegal source, which is concerning.
Right, and that's why we rely on our test designated positions and the random drug testing, to make sure that we do our part as management to keep our officers on their toes, so to understand that what you're doing is illegal and you shouldn't be doing it. In addition to the random drug testing, we also did random drug sweeps with our narcotics dogs, and nothing was found during those drug sweeps. So as long as we keep a random drug sweep and random drug testing, I think that'll remind the officers that they have a duty not to become users of illegal substances.
And I hope, Chief, you continue that process. I mean, I look at this more as a means of discouraging rather than saying, oh, look, we caught you, because it's always a loss.
Right.
I mean, I've in my own experience in the government have shocked sometimes. People that I least expected would not expect. I'm shocked. But again, I hope you continue to be diligent with that, because we got a tough job out there fighting this war on drugs, and we just want to make sure that those that we depend on for our own, like I said, our safety in this community are walking a straight line. And I hope you continue. I hope you have a zero tolerance policy.
We do, and we will continue. We do plan to continue
I appreciate
random
that.
drug testing and random drug sweeps.
I appreciate that, Chief. Thank you, and thank you to our people for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Fisher, you have any questions for the panel?
I do, thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for being here, Chief. It's a pleasure to see you again. I wanted to follow up on Senator Brown's question about drug testing. I'm looking at, I think it's your slide 5, which is Guam Police Department. The pages are not numbered. It's got a pie chart on top right. It looks like it's numbered, slide number 5.
The budget allocation?
Could be.
No.
You've broken it down into operations?
Yeah, the next page, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, is this an oversight or am I misreading it? It looks like GPD either from both the general, special, and federal matching funds is not requesting any money for drug testing. Is that correct?
No. So within the budget appropriation,
Yeah.
we carve out money for drug testing. So we were able to do drug testing this year, and we continue to do drug testing, because drug testing is required for pre-employment in the Guam Police Department.
Okay, then I assume this is an oversight. Neither drug testing nor workers' compensation is...
No, that's an oversight, yeah. We do carve out money
Okay.
for drug testing and workers' compensation payments.
Okay, so on this bar chart, I mean, there should have been something there, but there's not, right?
Yeah, my ASO will make corrections.
Okay, so clearly you're doing drug testing and you're paying workers.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Chief, I think when I first met you was in the 90s, and you were at CIS.
Yes, sir.
And this is a question about the crime lab. Congratulations on getting credited.
Yes, sir.
That is a tremendous, it's not easy, I know that. Is GPD able to do DNA testing yet?
No, not yet. So we are in the final stages. So there's a little over $200,000 that was needed by the Guam Community College It's primarily, though, for the DNA lab. So we need to buy a snorkel. We need to install the fume hood and the biosafety cabinet, and then the commissioning of the building.
Okay, well, I remember GPD received, probably about 95 or 6, received a significant amount of equipment for testing DNA. I'm sure it's all outdated by now. So,
yeah, that equipment doesn't,
we can't use it,
can't
right?
use it anymore.
Okay.
So we have whole new equipment for the DNA lab that was funded by the governor and lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Back in 2019. So we transferred 900-some thousand to GCC to buy all the equipment and the office equipment, chairs, cabinets, and all that.
Okay.
And so this last 285,000, which was just transferred a week ago to Guam Community College, is going to finish off the requirements to get occupancy for the building.
Okay, but that won't include training personnel? So, no.
No, this is the equipment. So we're now working on the training program.
Okay.
And some of the criminalists have actually gone on and done their own further educational enhancements to be prepared.
The ability to analyze DNA, is that something that a criminalist would be expected to do?
That's what we're training our criminalists for, yes,
Okay.
currently.
As part of your booking process, do you all take DNA samples, such as swabs or anything like that?
Not yet, but that's one of the things I've talked to Major Manny about is do we need to look at legislation, or bills that need to be introduced to collect DNA? Because there's some requirements where a person must submit a DNA sample, like I believe for the sexual offender registry.
Yeah, I mean, collecting the samples, I don't see a problem with that. I don't know that you'd need legislation.
So it depends. Some of the places I've read, depending jurisdiction to jurisdiction, some require a DNA sample for just any felony.
Yeah.
Some require when it's a felony involving a crime against a person. So we just have to look at what the model legislation is out there for DNA sampling, and determine what best fits our community.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you guys are moving that forward. Chief, don't really have too many questions for you. I want to talk about salaries, though, a little bit. I think they're just shockingly low because, we got a comparison, national versus Guam. And so what I did is I just, pulled out the calculator. Something called Glassdoor did a national compensation of, compensation for police officers. And they came up with a national compensation survey of $78,375 is average compensation. Even with this 25.9% pay raise, we're only going to be paying you guys 70% of what you could get if we're going to go with Glassdoor's analysis. We're not made of money, but
I know.
I mean, this is 70. It's only 70%.
Yeah, recently, one of my staff and a couple of others went to a conference in Denver.
Yeah.
And the California Highway Patrol had a big banner at the entrance to Exhibit Hall. They were willing to pay a new recruit $112,000. California Highway Patrol. I think I sent that to Senator Burnett. But yeah, those are some of the things that we're competing with. Is that the salaries of police officers, especially in Guam, we don't compete nationally. I had a couple years ago when we were preparing for Camp Blah's opening.
Yeah.
I was in the same room as a two-star general, and I said, one of the things we're having a hard time with here in Guam is we're losing our officers to Camp Blah's. And he goes, in the States, that's not an issue. In the States, we lose our officers in our Marine Corps base, the civilian police, to the local police because the local police sheriffs pay a lot more. I know a young man that graduated from, I believe, Sheriff's Department in Washington State. And I think his starting salary was in the 70,000s. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to stay quiet about it. I mean, the officers, have access to internet, and they know what's out there.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm just going to stretch this a little bit. Even if you took ZipRecruiter, which is the lowest, we're only paying 85% of the salary that ZipRecruiter quotes. So even in the worst case scenario, we're still not up there yet. And I guess I'm just bringing that up because if we're going to pat ourselves on the back, we haven't reached parity yet. And if it wasn't, frankly, if it wasn't for 8,000 miles of water between us and the coast of California.
Right. But I think 25.59% is a good start.
Well, it is, but it's not the end.
Right. I know.
Because we can't.
But at least locally, looking at the market,
Yeah.
we are more competitive now with the 25.59%.
Well, Chief, I'm glad you keep banging at that, because if we don't reach parity, we'll just have to pay the consequences.
Yeah, you know, just something I discussed with my staff this morning before we came down here. I said, after 1 year, let's look at where our numbers are at. If we keep losing officers,
Yeah.
then we really need to rethink our retention strategies, because if we implemented 25.59% and we're still losing them, then we need to come back to the table and figure out why are we still losing them,
Okay. And I wanted
especially if we're losing them to the local market.
And I want to address, I know this is a concern of Senator Joe's. Other law enforcement branches on Guam, such as Port Police and Airport Police and so forth and so on, are they experiencing the same problems as you, if you know?
I'm not aware, but I do know that I lose my staff to them.
Okay, so, so I don't feel so bad about, pushing for you guys, because I know Senator Joe's concerned that everybody's going to be knocking at the door. Well, I'd rather compare apples to apples than apples to oranges. So anyway, thank you, gentlemen, ladies, and Chief. And
Thank you, Senator.
Joe.
Thank you, Senator Fisher. Senator Barnett, you had a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple, really. So, Chief, you had said just a few moments ago that the Guam Police Department employs a zero tolerance policy for uniformed personnel who test positive for drugs, illegal drugs?
For those in the test designated position.
Okay.
So our test designated positions are not only uniform officers, but certain civilians in certain positions, for example, criminalists.
Right. So do we take that to mean that I know there was a recent positive result, but the previous one that was reported a few months ago, do we take that to mean that the officer who tested positive is no longer with the department?
That case is still under investigation.
Okay. But so in practice and in theory, the policy of the Guam Police Department is you test positive for drugs and a TDP, then you're out.
Generally.
Okay. What exceptions might there be to that policy?
If it's maybe a controlled substance that is a prescription.
Okay.
Right? So painkillers, back painkillers or whatever, things like that.
You had said earlier in lieu of a headquarters, although that would be nice, you want to look at building more precincts. And I know I saw something in the media recently about the Talafofo Coban. Is this something that you're planning on doing around the island, restoration of the different police Cobans?
Yeah, so we're starting with Talafofo, and only because of the geographical distance between getting from Agate to the eastern side, the Talafofo side, and the Talafofo Coban being available, and the willingness of the mayor to work with us. So the mayor has done a lot to get that place spruced up and ready for occupancy. To a certain extent, we're there now, but we haven't done any official announcement yet because there's still some things we're trying to tidy up. For example, the tile matches the bathroom stall. It's kind of old. Yeah. It's one of those, right, where the tile matches the toilet. Yeah, so it's old. So we're kind of working on with the mayor to kind of see what we can do to update the interior. Yeah, and we're also working with the GIGO substation within the mayor's office. Yeah. The only other place that we have a Coban is Jotnia.
Right.
And there's one in Chalampago, but we'd have to go back and find out because it's my understanding that many years ago, there was an MOU signed with a nonprofit group for their use of that Coban. I'm not sure which nonprofit group that is.
So is it your intention to refurbish the Jotnia Coban, or is that a non-issue because it's so close to Talafofo?
We're going to, again, we're not too far to Jotnia from the central precinct. but if you look at Agate to the eastern side, Talafofu, and that came out recently with that rash of crimes in Agate, is all of the officers were all on the eastern side, and when the in-progress call came down for the tire slashing in Agate, it took some time for them to get back to the other side.
Chief, what is the status on the painting and repairs to the central precinct?
We got a cost estimate already from a contractor for the painting and the water blasting of the roof and the water blasting of the building and repainting the building. So that's part of our FEMA claim. Yeah, so it's still an ongoing. I mean, we're just starting to get desks and chairs from FEMA claims right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Status of the body cams procurement? I heard that there was a hiccup.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bidder for the body-worn cameras did not meet the bid specs, so I have no other choice than to reject it. But we do have an opportunity to just send it back out again for another bid.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just took care of that before I came down here today.
Thank you. I just found out about that this morning. And given I'm sure the media asked you about the recent video that's circulating relative to allegations of police brutality. And kind of one of the things I thought was, that was one of the reasons. I mean, it goes both ways, right, to validate the officer's experience as well as the public. But had we been able to avail of the body-worn cameras, maybe we'd have a different kind of story.
Yeah, and we continue to pursue that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Lastly, here on the memo from DOA, it reads, it should be noted that other factors may contribute to attrition with the Guam Police Department. Working conditions, unprofessional supervision, and excessive or unsocial hours may be contributing factors, and GPD should address these if such conditions are a factor. All police agencies are required to deal with hazardous conditions involving contact with armed or violent criminals. GPD is encouraged to keep detailed records of terminations and submit summary reports to Human Resources Division at DOA. Relative to working conditions, unprofessional supervision, excessive or unsocial hours being contributing factors to attrition at the Guam Police Department, would you agree or disagree with that statement, Chief?
Well, working conditions are very important things. That's one of the things that Colonel Knight and the majors discuss frequently is with the shortage that we have, we're requiring officers to work beyond a regular 43-hour work week. Just supporting the Safe Schools initiative costs a lot of money, but really besides the money, it's the toll that it takes on the officers, having to come in that extra 12 hours a week. And so we've actually had to make sure that we keep a cap on our overtime for the officers, not for saving money, but really to help that officer recuperate, because the last thing you need on duty is a fatigued officer who's just overworked and just tired, especially if you're working graveyard shift.
Sorry, lastly, Mr. Chair, overtime, is that we budgeted adequately for all the potential and projected overtime?
Yes, so working with the ASO, we do have carved out some overtime money in this FY25 request, and that's also the additional funding request for the DOE initiative.
Sidos Masi, Chief, Biba GPD.
Biba.
Okay, Chief. I'm having my staff communicate with DOA to find out if the memo is sufficient legally to authorize the pay. Okay? It's the last item in your packet, okay? I'm checking on that. That's one. Number two. When we talk about the budget, as one of my colleagues brought up, what happens in the budget, okay, is the governor submits a budget, just so that everybody understands this. It's not really on her. There's a collaboration of both entities, legislature and the governor's office. What we end up doing in the Office of Finance and Budget, we come up with a projection of where we're going to go. Increase maybe the BBT, increase certain source of funding, revenue. Then we come to terms so that the government of Guam is budgeted, is funded based on projection. That's how that works. Because if you look on previous budgets, and this is not just during my tenure as the oversight on appropriations, it's everybody's. You have to look at your projection, what the governor wants, then what the legislature feels you should have, and what the projection could be. And that's what I was digging up on my phone while everything was going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this across the board for all government agencies and find a way to raise the projection, possibly raise the projection in certain areas so that all government entities can get, I'm not going to say sufficient funding, but some sense of funding so they can stay afloat, because everybody's got to stay in business. At the end of the day, when it was mentioned by my colleagues, police officers don't make 70%. Well, you know what? You go out in the market here. People are making, what, $9.25? That's the minimum wage in Guam. You go to Washington State, the minimum wage to work at McDonald's is $15. You go to California, the minimum wage is $20. Hey, only on Guam, there's a certain rate, and if we have to figure out a way how to take care of the Guam Police Department, then we'll do so. And then when they brought up about certain agencies stealing your officers, those are autonomous agencies. That's something that we in the legislature can work with the autonomous and say, hey, hale handbrake, dude. That money you're getting in the autonomous didn't come from yourself. It came from the people of Guam. The same way we're budgeting you guys. They need to slow down. Because the last time I checked, and don't get me wrong, but to be a police officer, there's a criteria you have to meet that is just a little bit higher than everywhere else. And until we know we're all on the same playing field, then you can say, you want to increase because why? You're the port or you're the airport, then so be it. But if we remember correctly, like I brought up, I'm the 19th cycle. GPD was DPS. Airport and the port was under the control of the Department of Public Safety. It wasn't a bunch of different agencies out there. It was one law enforcement group. The only other folks that was law enforcement was Department of Agriculture, the game warden. But on many occasions, police officers were with them to catch the poachers. Okay, so there's a lot of, some folks seem to forget how it was before. But when it deals with your budget, we'll figure out something, and I will contact DOA and find out if their memo that they sent you signed by the acting governor. So I was looking at that and I was like, something don't look right, but maybe it is right, because there's a legal counsel's response to it. Then the memo, then the signature of Mr. Burt, then the signature of the acting governor. And if that's valid, then we need to get that confirmation. Because I understand where my colleagues come from, an executive order to make it law. And if that needs to happen, then I will communicate. Give us an executive order so that you guys can get paid. Because you have the funding. And then we move on from there. And then we figure out how to take care of you in 2025. Because I'm not one senator who's going to say, I'm not going to support your pay raise when you got it. We need to maintain the same warm body pay. And we just adjust and we move along from there. And then we'll move on there. And with that, Chief, unless you have something to say, otherwise I'm going to end this hearing and we can move on.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Again, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and for providing feedback and suggestion. The Guam Police Department budget hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 3:59. Chief, be safe, and to all the police officers and folks in GPD, be safe and take care. Thank you.